Chapter 61, The Promise with the Nine-Tailed Fox. Please read and vote for me. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Jiraiya wanted to tag along with Naruto, no doubt, but Naruto shot that idea down quick. Having Karen around was enough, so Jiraiya headed back to the hotel. Dawn was breaking, and the redhead was still out cold in bed. Naruto dismissed his shadow clone. He sat on the windowsill, watching the sunrise. The news Jiraiya gave him was a mixed bag. Really, he'd always had a complicated relationship with the nine-tailed fox. Truth be told, that fox, even with the trash talk, wasn't all that bad. He kinda liked it, but up until now, he'd always believed the nine-tailed fox murdered his parents. Then he found out that wasn't the case. Someone else was responsible, the guy with the Sharingan. The one they suspected was Uchiha Madara. Nine Tails, Naruto murmured, calling out its name. Inside his head, the fox grumbled, "What is it, kid? When I find my parents, I'm gonna ask them what they think of you," Naruto said slowly. The Nine-Tails was taken aback. Naruto leaned against the window. "The real culprit is that Uchiha. But you played a part in it too. I can't speak for my parents, and I won't. If they're willing to forgive you, then I'll do my best to figure out how to safely free you from my body. If they're not, then I'll set you free before I die." Being a Jinchuriki is like being a prison for a tailed beast, but tailed beasts are also prisons for Jinchuriki. If the tailed beast is separated entirely, breaking that bond, the Jinchuriki bites the dust. The nine-tailed fox snarled, surprised. "Wait, till you die. Naruto. Who knows how long you'll live? What if you're like Yamamoto Genryusai, living for over 2,000 years? You're an Uzumaki, after all." It was pretty sure Naruto's lifespan would be measured in thousands of years, outliving Yamamoto Genryusai for sure. "Consider it punishment if your parents don't forgive you," Naruto grinned. The nine-tailed fox huffed, clearly not happy. "Let's make another deal," Naruto suggested, tilting his head. "I know you don't like being forced into stuff." The nine-tailed fox bared its fangs. It remembered those horrible days of the Vajralock beating it down. "I only thought you were my parents' murderer back then," Naruto continued. "I didn't really care what you thought. But now things are different. So, I'm sorry for being a jerk before. I won't use the diamond seal or anything like that on you again. But when I need to borrow your power, can you lend it to me without putting up such a fight?" Caught off guard by Naruto's honesty, the nine-tailed fox was at a loss. It could tell Naruto was being genuine, no BS involved. It was just finding it hard to argue with his direct approach. "Let me think about it," it finally said, swishing its tail. "Is that a yes?" Naruto grinned. The nine-tailed fox was embarrassed. "Shut up, Naruto. I said I'd think about it." "Then tell me your name," Naruto pressed. "Stop talking to yourself," the nine-tailed fox snapped. "I said I'd think about it." A curious glimmer appeared in its eyes. A long, long time ago, when it was first born, the guy who created the tailed beasts, Otsutsuki Hagoromo, or Sage of the Six Paths, as the world called him, he told them to value connections with people. But humans had let him down, especially the ones with red eyes. Redheads were never easy to get along with either. Would Naruto be any different? The Nine-Tails fell silent. There was plenty of time. Naruto would live over 1,000 years. It, being a tailed beast, was eternal. There was time to get to know each other and see how things played out, but if he wasn't going to use those annoying golden chains on it anymore, that was definitely good news. Once the sunlight had fully flooded the room, Karen woke up. "Naruto," she mumbled, rubbing her eyes. "I had this dream you just took off all of a sudden." Naruto smiled. "I went back to save someone. And I had a little chat with Jiraiya-sensei." Karen paused. "That wasn't a dream. Did you sleep well?" Naruto hopped off the windowsill. Karen nodded. She tilted her head, looking at Naruto. She'd only taken a nap, but it felt like Naruto had changed. He seemed more dependable. "Let's go shopping," Naruto said, waving his hand. "Anything you want?" Karen's eyes lit up, and she nodded eagerly. Back in Kusagakure village, she never had this kind of freedom. she'd wanted to live like a normal girl for ages. The town's economy was booming, with stores of every size and plenty of variety. Naruto had 2 outfits custom-made for himself, his Death Hater suit and the captain's Haori. He'd been wearing that get-up for over 10 years and was used to it. Karen stared at her dull gray coat, paired with the standard ninja fishnet outfit. It wasn't a pretty sight, and she momentarily doubted herself. Was Naruto better at putting together outfits than she was? She tried on a bunch of outfits herself, maybe because she'd been stuck in Kusagakure village for so long and her sense of style had been stifled. The clothes she picked out were always off. Either they were ugly, or they looked okay on their own, but clashed horribly with her red hair. Naruto stepped in. He picked out a navy blue fitted shirt with khaki cropped pants and low-top sneakers for Karen, looking at herself in the mirror. "Naruto, you've got a good eye," Karen said, turning this way and that, admiring herself. The girl in the mirror was beautiful. Red hair was a vibrant color, and with a deep, but not depressing, color as a backdrop, she looked cheerful and full of life, but there was nothing ninja about it. Naruto grinned. He picked out a few more things for her. Then they left town and headed towards the land of whirlpools. Meanwhile, in Konoha, 2 guys in red cloud and black robes were walking down the street. Kisame lowered his voice. "Isn't it a little risky just barging in like this? We should at least try to disguise ourselves. Even with the 3rd Hokage gone, this is still Konoha." Uchiha Itachi's tone was unchanged. "If you think there's a problem, hurry up and find the kid. There's no point in second-guessing." He stopped dead in his tracks. 2 Konoha ninjas had blocked their path. One had a beard and handsome features, Asuma Sarutobi, the 3rd Hokage's son. The other had black hair and red eyes, Kurenai Yuhi, a seasoned ninja. "You 2 aren't from Konoha, are you?" Sarutobi Asuma asked softly, cautiously. "What brings you to the village?" These 2 had powerful auras. They were strong. Their sudden appearance was alarming. Chapter 62 Target, the Land of Whirlpools. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Konoha, Training Grounds. "You want to get stronger?" Kakashi asked, looking down at the kid in front of him. Sasuke had called him over early this morning. Sasuke clenched his fists, nodding hard. "Yeah. I gotta get stronger." "But you just mastered the Chidori," Kakashi pointed out. Sasuke shook his head, gritting his teeth. "It's not enough. Just one move isn't gonna let me catch up with Naruto. And, catch up with him." That hit Kakashi hard. "Chase after Naruto?" He took a deep breath and nodded. "Alright, then He was cut off mid-sentence. A special jonin showed up, sounding panicked. "Kakashi-sama, the rogue ninja Itachi has appeared west of the village. Asuma and Kurenai-sama have engaged, requesting backup." Kakashi froze, instinctively glancing at Sasuke. Confusion and hatred flashed across the young man's handsome face. "Sasuke, don't do anything rash," he shouted, trying to stop him, but in a heartbeat, Sasuke bolted, racing towards the west side of the village. Kakashi took off after him. When they finally arrived, Asuma and Kurenai were already down. A shark-faced guy was swinging a huge blade, clearly going for the kill. Kakashi immediately formed a seal, executing a ninjutsu. Earth style, earth flow wall. An earthen wall, engraved with a dog's head, rose up, blocking the attacker. "Looks like we got company," Kisame said, stepping back, resting the dark blue, barbed blade on his shoulder. "Oh. And who's the brat?" Sharingan eyes, N. "Itachi, he looks just like you." Itachi Uchiha replied calmly, "He's my brother." "Didn't you wipe out the entire Uchiha clan?" Kisame asked, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "Guess there's one little twig left." Itachi ignored him, turning to his brother. "Long time no see, Sasuke." "Itachi Uchiha." Sasuke roared, his voice tight with rage. "I'm gonna kill you." He formed a seal. Lightning crackled in his palm, buzzing intensely. Kakashi watched, worried. That's his signature move, the one he'd taught Sasuke during the Chunin exams. Lightning style, Chidori. Sasuke's face was contorted with fury, his body trembling. "I've always hated you. I live to kill you. That he lunged forward, the lightning distorted the air, he closed the distance in a blink, like a knife's edge, he thrust forward. But Itachi simply swayed to the side, raised his hand, and casually grabbed Sasuke's wrist. The lightning crackled in Sasuke's palm. He was only a few feet from Itachi, but Sasuke couldn't move another inch. You're so weak, Itachi said softly. Sasuke's heart clenched. Is that all the power you can muster with Chidori? Itachi raised his knee, slamming it into Sasuke's gut. The buzzing subsided. He grabbed Sasuke by the neck, lifting him into the air. The three tomo in his Sharingan spun, twisting and changing shape, like three sickles embedded in his eyes. Sasuke stared, wide-eyed. Those were the eyes from that night. Itachi whispered, why are you so weak? Only two tomo. It's because your hatred isn't deep enough. As he spoke, Sasuke's senses froze, the world turned negative. Genjutsu, Tsukuyomi. This place should be familiar, Itachi murmured, countless voices echoing around them. In the world of Tsukuyomi, space, time, and mass are all under my control. I'll stab you every minute, every second, for the next 72 hours. Sasuke gritted his teeth, groaning. The first stab had already pierced him, his senses were amplified, the pain was excruciating, drawn out. This is the power of the Mangekyo Sharingan, Itachi said, moving his hands. You have the same qualifications, the same talent as me. You have the potential to unlock the Mangekyo. But to get these eyes, there's a condition. You have to kill the person you value most. That will prove you have the power to wield a Mangekyo. The pain clouded Sasuke's thoughts. But as he heard Itachi's words, only one name and face flashed in his mind, Naruto Uzumaki, who had been on his mind for days. To gain the power of the Mangekyo, did he have to become like Itachi? 72 hours in Tsukuyomi, only a moment had passed in the real world. Kakashi pulled up his forehead protector, his tone serious. Let Sasuke go. Itachi tossed Sasuke aside, the boy unconscious. I have no interest in the weak. His gaze shifted, it landed on Asuma and Kurenai, two jonin, enough to prove his presence. He looked up, spotting the Hokage tower in the distance. Too many pests are showing up, Itachi said, turning back. Kisame, let's go. He moved. Kisame hesitated, glanced at Asuma, then sheathed his blade. TCH, that's some good prey. Our goal isn't to fight, Itachi reminded him. It's a shame we didn't get the information. But there's no point in sticking around. Kakashi readied a kunai, moving to intercept. Itachi turned, his Mangekyo Sharingan whirling, a trickle of blood leaking from his eye. Ninjutsu, Amaterasu. Strange black flames ignited where his gaze focused. Unlike any normal fire, the ink-like flames swayed, each tendril distinct. Kakashi stopped, forming a seal for a water-style jutsu, but dousing the flames only made them burn brighter. Several figures arrived, Jiraiya, Might Guy, and a whole ANBU squad, answering the call. Where's Itachi Uchiha? Jiraiya demanded, his face grim. He had just returned to the village when he heard the news of Itachi's appearance. Kakashi walked over, picking up Sasuke. He got away. Asuma, Kurenai, and Sasuke are in bad shape. Get them medical attention. Their objective is unknown. But it doesn't seem to be Sasuke. Jiraiya pulled out a scroll, sealing away the black flames. Really? The ANBU shouldn't pursue them. Focus on the village defenses. Wait until Asuma and Kurenai wake up. Find out what they know. The ANBU acknowledged. Jiraiya frowned. Ever since the third Hokage died, all sorts of monsters were crawling out of the woodwork. None of this had anything to do with Naruto. He hurried on with Karen. 2 days later, they reached the border of the Land of Fire, a coastal town. Standing on the rocks, they gazed out at the sea. The view's not so great, Karen said, craning her neck. I can't see the Land of Whirlpools. But my mom said. The Land of Whirlpools is an island east of the Land of Fire. She tilted her head, looking at Naruto. How do we get there? That should we fly? We'll take a boat, Naruto said. I saw a boat operator in town. Chapter 63 What are you testing? Please read and vote for me. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 63 What are you testing? The rocks were slick from the wind and rain, but easy enough to navigate for a ninja. Xianglin hopped down, raising her hands as if to catch the sea breeze, but only felt the dampness in the air. She turned to say something to Naruto, but before she could speak, a flash of gold caught her eye. Naruto stood in front of her, his expression serious. He turned sharply to the left, yelling, "Show yourself!" His fingers twitched, ready to unleash his chakra. Breaking path number 4, white lightning. A bolt of white light flashed, hitting the target in an instant, followed by an explosion. Xianglin huddled behind Naruto, looking in the direction of the blast. The humid air kept the smoke and dust to a minimum, scattering only a few pebbles. The gravel beach offered a clear view, free of any obstructions. Nothing resembling a person or puppet could be seen. "There doesn't seem to be anyone there," she whispered. Naruto frowned. As far as he could tell, she was right. He didn't sense any chakra signature in that area. The spell had only struck the ground. Still, he had clearly felt a wave of malice, a chilling sense of being watched. It was definitely human malice. His senses weren't failing him, so this had to be someone who was extremely skilled at hiding their presence. If it weren't for that malicious intent, he wouldn't have detected them at all. No sooner had he left Konoha than someone like this approached him. Who could it be? That Uchiha guy? Or someone else targeting the Nine Tails or him? Unlike the ones hiding nearby whose chakra signatures were plainly visible, deep underground, a figure, his head encased in a giant pitcher plant and his body half black, half white, shuddered. "That was close. I almost got nailed," the white half chirped. "He found us." "How?" the black half asked, his tone serious. "He's sharp." He was confident in his stealth techniques, having evaded those much stronger than Naruto, more than once. "But this guy. We'll have to be more careful," the white half whispered. "But the good news is, we've confirmed his location. Tell Itachi and Kisame the Ninetales Jinchuriki is heading to the land of Whirlpools." The black half fell silent, disappearing underground. "What's wrong?" Xianglin tugged at his sleeve. Naruto shook his head and turned toward a cluster of reefs. "The three of you hiding over there can stop playing games. Come on out." Xianglin followed his gaze. Waves crashed against the rocks with a vigorous whoosh. Was someone actually there? Naruto raised his hand, not needing to repeat himself. White lightning flashed again, shattering rocks, piercing holes, and tearing through the waves. 3 figures were forced to reveal themselves, all ninjas, wearing khaki vests and masks. Umbu from Iwagakure. Xianglin recognized the symbol of 2 connected mountains on their foreheads. "Don't be alarmed," the Umbu in the center said, raising his hands in a gesture of peace. "We mean no harm." Naruto studied them. "We're under orders from Tsuchika Jinoki himself," the ninja continued tentatively, seeing that Naruto wasn't going to attack. "We'd like to extend an invitation to the hero who defeated Orochimaru, the S-class rogue ninja, Uzumaki Naruto. If you're unhappy in a place like Konoha, why not consider joining another village?" That he spoke carefully, trying to sound as sincere as possible. Naruto smiled faintly. The 3 Umbu visibly relaxed, but then, a voice cut through the air. "What are you testing?" That the landscape disappeared, leaving only a red-haired girl. The blonde boy was no longer where he had been. He stood beside him, his hand already on his mask. He tried to pull away, but an immense pressure slammed into him, petrifying him, freezing his chakra. The connection between his brain and body severed. Naruto ripped off his mask, revealing a face weathered by wind and rain, its dark, yellowish skin marked by the harsh conditions of the land of Earth. He was even more terrified now. He couldn't move. What kind of technique was this? Genjutsu? Or the Nara clan's shadow binding technique? But could either Genjutsu or the Nara clan's secret art accomplish this? Controlling someone so completely without being affected himself? Naruto dropped the mask. "I hate this," he said. The mask fell silently to the sand. Were they really trying to recruit him? Not a chance. Naruto might not have the experience of a seasoned leader, but this level of manipulation wasn't lost on him. Recruitment was a smokescreen. They were testing him. to see if he was leaving the village for training or was going against Konoha. The answer was the latter, but did he owe them an explanation? He wouldn't betray Konoha, nor would he throw his lot in with another village. Naruto turned and walked back towards Xianglin, waving her over. Let's go. Time to head back. The red-haired girl nodded and followed. They left only faint footprints on the beach, but to the three ninja, the power emanating from the blonde boy grew heavier with each step, until he disappeared completely. The weight finally lifted, the three collapsed on the beach. What the hell was that? The ninja on the left ripped off his mask, gasping, sweat pouring down his face. What kind of spirit? The report about him killing Orochimaru is true. Not a smokescreen from Konoha, another said, his voice trembling with fear. He could definitely do it. Even without using the tailed beast's power. He reached up, his hand shaking, and touched his neck. No cut, no blood. He was intact, thank God. He'd been worried he was already dead, but the kid's move had been too fast to register. The man in the middle stared blankly at the sky, still processing what had happened. He had felt the brunt of Naruto's power. The Jinchuriki didn't seem to express any feelings about Konoha, the ninja on the left said, trying to refocus on the mission. The man in the middle snapped back to attention, his head snapping around. What are you thinking? That was a warning. If we go after him again, we're dead. We've confirmed his strength. That's enough to report back to the village. The ninja on the left shook his head. He never wanted to see the blonde kid again. No way. I just wonder why he didn't say anything. Not even a word. The ninja on the right whispered, do the strong need to explain themselves to the weak? He doesn't like what we're doing. There's no way we're getting anything out of him. Thank God the captain didn't try anything. It's a miracle we're still alive. Chapter 64 I'm just a passing hero, please give me a monthly ticket and read on. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Returning to town, they rented a boat. Naruto and Karen rested up overnight before heading out the next morning. His warning to Iwagakure had worked, the ninja had cleared out of town. The land of Whirlpools was a small island a short distance from the coast. After a couple hours on the water, they reached a rundown ferry landing. The air was misty and a little eerie. The pier jutted out into the water, but it was rotten and dilapidated, barely held together by a few splintered planks. It looked ready to fall apart. A stiff breeze or heavy rain would probably finish it off. Has the land of Whirlpools been like this for years? Naruto asked, staring at the dock. The boatman didn't even glance back. Nobody comes here anymore. I remember when this was still a country. Just disappeared overnight, nobody knows why. The boatman paused. Old-timers in town say the country offended the god of death, so he cursed it and wiped it off the map. Naruto raised an eyebrow. The god of death. Why him? The land of Whirlpools was an island nation. You'd think natural disasters would be the first thing to come to mind. Hurricanes, earthquakes, volcanoes, all more likely than death. Beats me. The boatman shrugged. That's just what they say. Karen whispered, my mom said the Uzumaki clan used to worship the god of death. That's probably where the rumor started. The boatman swiveled around, surprised. Wait a minute, I think I heard something about that. Back then, most of the ninja from that country had red hair. Are you one of their descendants? Karen didn't answer. The land of Whirlpools wasn't destroyed by the god of death. Other countries were afraid of the Uzumaki clan's sealing techniques. They teamed up and wiped us out in a single night. Even our allies in Konoha couldn't react in time. The boatman nodded, finally understanding. So that's what happened. Good to know. He steered clear of the dock, tossed a rope around a tree stump on the shore, and secured the boat. Naruto and Karen hopped out, stepping onto the land that had once belonged to the Uzumaki clan for the first time. Hold on. The boatman called after them. They turned back. He scratched his head. You guys look tough. And you're connected to ninja and this dead country. But be careful. Some of the original residents still live on the island. And I've heard pirates hang out here too. Naruto grinned. Thanks, mister, that the boatman watched them go, then turned his boat around and headed back. The island was overgrown, trees towered overhead, bushes grew thick, and the whole place was teeming with life, but there were few signs of people. A worn path led from the pier into the island, but it hadn't been used or maintained in decades. Weeds were taking over, following the path. They soon entered a town. It had once been a bustling port, now it was just ruins and overgrown lots. Want to look around here first? Karen asked, peering into a half-collapsed house. Let's find the ninja village first. Naruto shook his head. They continued on, and soon they heard yelling and panic in the distance. They hurried over and climbed a tree. Below them was a makeshift settlement. Huts were made from salvaged materials. It was a small village, just a few dozen people, and they were being robbed. 5 pirates waved knives and kunai they'd picked up somewhere. Hurry up. Hand over your food. And your money. Or you're dead. That they were full of themselves, only 5 of them, but the villagers didn't dare fight back. The older folks looked defeated, the young people wanted to resist, but the adults held them back. There are ninja, Naruto whispered, spotting 2 men. They weren't wearing headbands, their chakra wasn't strong, weaker than Sakura's. But they were definitely more than just ordinary people. You gonna help them, Naruto? Karen asked, not really caring about the villagers, just wanting to know what Naruto thought. The only answer was a flash of gold. Naruto quietly slipped into the fight. The 5 pirates froze, their grins still plastered on their faces, turning to stone. They couldn't move anything but their eyes. Thanks to Naruto, they struggled to look around, their eyes finally landing on the blonde kid. They were terrified, a powerful ninja. What was someone like that doing on this forgotten island? You've got power, but you're using it to bully the weak, Naruto said softly, his eyes sweeping over their faces. That's just wrong. He rested his hand on the hilt of Kyubi. He drew it an inch, without even releasing its full power. 5 glowing tails emerged from the ground. The pirates screamed, begged, and struggled, but it was no use. The tails crushed their throats. Naruto turned around. The villagers watched him warily. Are you, a ninja? An old man stepped forward, his voice trembling. Thank you, Ninja-sama, for saving our village. He nodded to someone next to him. A man holding a bag of coins rushed to Naruto, knelt, and piously piled the coins at Naruto's feet. The old man continued, this is all the money we have. Please accept it as a reward for saving us, Ninja-sama. We hope it's enough. It was a shame to lose the money. But there wasn't much to buy on the island anyway. Keeping their food was more important. Karen floated to the ground and stood beside Naruto. The villagers tensed up even more. Another ninja. Naruto didn't answer right away. He was thinking. Finally, he smiled. He bent down, picked out 2 of the biggest coins, and handed them to Karen. This is my reward for saving you. And as for being ninja. Naruto's voice was soft but firm. We're not ninja. He paused, searching for the right words. I'm just a hero passing through. The old man blinked. He stared at Naruto's face. The cheerful grin and the golden hair made him seem almost blinding, like the island's gloom had suddenly lifted. A hero? Not a ninja. Lord Hero, can you tell us your name? He asked. Naruto gave a thumbs up. Just call me the Golden Flash, Uzumaki Naruto. Karen chuckled. Naruto, your naming sense is something. Golden Flash is awesome. Naruto grinned. It was my dad's nickname. And I'm blonde, too. It suits me. There'll be another chapter tonight at 6 p.m. Chapter 65 Uchiha Itachi, coming. Please read and vote for me. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the crowd, a little kid wriggled free from his mom's grip and ran forward. He copied the guy with the doge seat, kneeling before Naruto and shouting, Hero, please stay in our village. Naruto looked at him. You want me to stay? Pirates, the boy said, his voice now small and weak, as if the request had drained him. They're not the only problem. Pirates rob our village every few days. Even if you lived somewhere else, they'd still find you. My dad was killed by pirates. Hero, please. Stay and protect us. Naruto shook his head. Why should I? The boy looked up, confused. He thought he'd already explained it. Because of the pirates. They'll rob our village and kill people. Naruto nodded. Yeah, there will be pirates. I wipe out this bunch today, and another bunch will show up in a few days. Even if I killed every pirate right now, new ones would pop up in a few years. The boy was lost. If I stayed to protect you, how long would I have to stay? Naruto asked. There are always going to be pirates. Would I have to stay forever? The boy just stared, mouth open. He wanted to say, why not, but he couldn't. I have my own things to do, Naruto said softly, his tone gentle. Things that are really important to me. Things as important as you wanting to protect your village. The boy's eyes welled up, and he clenched his fists. Why do you have to beg someone else to protect you? Naruto knelt, touching the boy's head. If you want something done, do it yourself. I want to protect the people I want to protect. So use your own hands. The boy gritted his teeth. But I'm not strong enough. Naruto stopped talking and made a hand seal. Ninjutsu, summoning jutsu, that he summoned 2 blank scrolls and wrote something on them, placing them in front of the boy. The boy looked at the scrolls, then back at Naruto, confused. Can you read? Naruto asked. The boy shook his head. Not yet, but the village elder can. Naruto patted his head. Then learn to read first. Then learn what's on these scrolls. It's a chakra refining technique, plus some physical techniques and sword techniques. Work hard and get stronger. He stood and left with Karen. The boy stood there, clutching the scrolls, bowed, and shouted, "Thank you, hero." The blonde hair shone brightly, like the sun. Naruto waved without turning around. As they left the village, Karen tilted her head, staring at Naruto. Aren't we going to be ninjas? Why do you want to be a ninja? Naruto asked. Karen looked ahead. I thought you wanted to rebuild the kingdom of Whirlpool and Whirlpool village. Naruto repeated the words softly. Rebuild Uchiha village. Maybe someday, maybe not. But before I decide, I need to figure something out. Karen kicked a pebble. Figure out what? What's the point of ninjas? Naruto asked, striding forward. It was an overlooked, but important, question. In Soul Society, what's the point of the Soul Reapers? Had a clear answer, to maintain the balance of the 3 realms, the human world, Soul Society, and Hueco Mundo, the 3 realms that made up the entire world. But what was the point of ninjas? In Konoha's education, ninjas existed to complete missions. Karen had learned something similar in Kyuzugaku, but that was the purpose of ninjas as tools, not the meaning of ninjas themselves. Karen looked down at her clothes. She didn't mind not being a ninja. It was just that her mother was a ninja, so she had assumed that she was born to be one too. The last few days with Naruto hadn't felt like being a ninja at all. She didn't even dress like one, but these had been the happiest days of her life, so maybe not being a ninja was okay. She hurried to catch up with Naruto. On their way to find the ruins of Ninja Village, they realized how many bandits there were in the land. There wasn't much room for good people. Every time they ran into other people, they were fighting. Naruto and Karen would watch. If both sides were villains, Naruto would pass by and ignore them, but if one side was bullying the other, Naruto would intervene. Konoha Coast. You can even sense that guy. Kisame opened a scroll, reading the information. Is your perception really that good? Let's head to the kingdom of Whirlpool. Itachi didn't respond, staring at the island, barely visible in the distance. Come on, Itachi, your previous assessment was off, Kisame said, putting the scroll away. The Nine-Tails Jinchuriki leaving Konoha wasn't a fake news story to confuse people. But he's definitely strong. The news about him killing Orochimaru is probably true. To be that strong at such a young age, not to be underestimated. Itachi said calmly, there's nothing to underestimate. Our mission isn't to capture the Nine-Tails right now. The organization isn't ready. If we can't take him, we need to gather as much information as possible about the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki. We know nothing about him now. Kisame shook his head. You're too rational, Itachi. They took a boat towards the Whirlpool country. Meanwhile, Naruto and Karen arrived at the ruins of Whirlpool village. The place was even more dilapidated than the villages and towns they'd passed through. Buildings had collapsed and totems had crumbled. Only a few moss-covered stone pillars showed remnants of the Uzumaki clan's symbols. There's nothing valuable here, Karen said, digging through the ruins, finding only skeletal remains, broken parts like fingers and palms. There were no complete bodies. Ninja corpses were valuable. The ninjas who had attacked the Uzumaki clan had taken them when they left, not to mention any information the village might have contained. Naruto didn't say anything, squatting in front of a stone tablet and wiping off the moss. Not everything's gone. Look at this. Karen peered over. The tablet was engraved with text, roughly outlining the history of the establishment of Uzumaki village. Under the leadership of the clan leader, Uzumaki Ashina, the Uzumaki clan had taken root here and established Uzumaki village. This information is useless to you, Karen muttered, sounding dejected. Naruto shook his head. Maybe there are other tablets that record what I need. Let's look around. Chapter 66, Remarks on the Launch. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Alright, here's the lowdown. Launch time tomorrow will be after 2 p.m. I'd love to bump it up, but that's the only window of opportunity we've got for optimal positioning. 15 chapters guaranteed tomorrow. Over 40,000 words, locked and loaded. That's thousands of words, people. And that's the gist of it. So much to say, so little time. Gotta burn the midnight oil for those 40k words tomorrow. Big shout out to Mung Bean, the head honcho at Tai Tai, and Sister Juzi, the top dog at Tai Tai 2. Props to Lu Xingbao, the editor next door, and Huya Yaya. Mad love to Gugu, Mao Mao Tutor, Deng Bao, and Tian Dazhuang. And a big howdy to Tai Tai Chang Shige. Just throwing out some love all around. Gotta sacrifice and soak up all the good vibes. Chang Shurs then let them prove their worth. Is on fire. Into the Unscientific is by a newbie author. Dude's not exactly a rocket scientist, so don't overthink it. Seriously. Sister Kiss Pig's new book, Return to the Island for a Chill Life, is a heartwarming slice-of-life story, pure bliss. Sister Jasmine's new book, Book of Strange Tales, is amazing. Sister Jasmine is a freaking goddess. I'm simping hard. Her new book is just beautiful. When you get reborn, you gotta find love. Fall in love. That's what I want. Durian Laojiu's My Son Yang Jian has the look of an emperor. This one is for you. You're Erlangtian's dad. Hungry fishes where the wind chime rises. There is a divine lord has killer writing and a truly magical feel. Oops, almost forgot my own book title. Tian Luo Leguang's in the Extraordinary City, Cultivating the Wildest History. This book is imaginative and super engaging. It was struggling before because of the name, but after the title change, it's a straight-up hit. Medieval Rabbits. I cultivate immortality in troubled times. Check out the daily updates 10,000 plus words per day. That's how it is done. Yang Xiaorong's No, Gentlemen Are Preventing. This book has the top monthly votes. #1 bestseller. Putting Super Cute My Humanity is in Danger, is an urban martial arts. Strange Beast. Big and Beautiful. A Man in Tokyo, A Fanatic in the Law by Bamboo Leaf Cake. How to describe this amazing book? Transparent, perfect for your enjoyment. Cha Chi-wan's This top class just wants to make progress, showcases institutional star and cultural travel route. Chen Zhao Kai is a cat reborn with a tribute panel, good reviews, simple and refreshing. Who can play Go after being reborn? Is a stab at swords, and the Go text is the master, master of masters. Tian Li's Wizard, Liver Experience begins from Knight's breathing technique, is a completed wizard upgrade story at 5 million words. Don't worry about waiting for the next book. The Poetry of Food by Beichuan Nanhai, a high fantasy food adventure. Awesome and unique. Xia Shilonghus, will it hurt you if I fight like this? A passionate fighting novel written by a young man and his wife. Feng Shen, is immortality a tribulation? By Hot Pot Live. Slay a life and turn it into a calamity. The author is awesome. The radish squatting on the green vegetables, who's gonna be a corporate slave when they're this powerful? This book is a godsend. Spend money, spend money. Microwave hot cokes, what is a bath type mid lane? This is a new book by the author of Hong Wen's Top Laner. That's all, folks. Back to writing. Chapter 67, Can you bear 72 hours of pain? First update, please vote. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Uzushio village was pretty much worthless. When it got destroyed, the invaders looted everything worthwhile. Over the past 20 years, explorers have trickled in, scavenging anything they thought they could use. Now, all that's left are these stone tablets with bits and pieces of written records, and time hasn't been kind. A lot of the inscriptions are worn away and hard to decipher. It wasn't until nightfall that they finished copying everything from the 6 tablets, since it was dark and they weren't in a huge rush. They decided to call it a night. They found a mostly intact house higher up in the village to crash in. They gathered some dry wood and lit a bonfire to brighten things up. Sakura flipped through the scroll, frowning as she read. This is all about the history of the Uzumaki clan. Why are all these events from the Warring States period recorded here? For the Uzumaki clan, this would be priceless, but for Naruto, it wasn't what he was hoping for. Guess we're not in the right spot, Naruto said, still reading. Let's see if there's anything like a shrine nearby tomorrow. Sakura nodded, but kept looking at the scroll, trying to find something useful between the lines. Naruto poked at the fire, then suddenly stopped. 2 seriously powerful guys are headed this way. Showing up here at this hour, they're probably after me. Sakura backed into the house. Powerful? How powerful? Feels like they're at Orochimaru's level, Naruto guessed. Sakura's eyes went wide. Orochimaru, that was one of the legendary 3 ninja, an S-rank threat, a rogue ninja strong enough to take down the 3rd Hokage. Sure, Naruto beat him, but that just showed how strong Naruto was, not that Orochimaru was weak. Are guys like that a dime a dozen now? Finding them in the land of Whirlpools, a place nobody cares about. And 2 of them? Let's get out of here, Sakura suggested. Naruto shook his head calmly. Too many people pick up my scent and come sniffing around. If we run, they'll get excited and think we're easy targets. The only way to deal with them is to give them a beatdown. Show them some blood, maybe a body or 2. Then they'll know to leave us alone. Sakura pursed her lips, worried. But they're like Orochimaru times 2. The harder the target, the more it proves my blade's sharp, Naruto said, standing up and looking down at Sakura. Don't worry, I'm way stronger than I was a few days ago. Just be careful. Is there somewhere you can hide? If not, just run farther away, and I'll find you. There were other dangers on the island, like bandits or rogue genin, but compared to these 2 coming to Uzushio village, they weren't worth thinking about. If it's just hiding, I'm good, Sakura said confidently. I've almost mastered Kagura's mind's eye now. I can protect myself. She knew her place around Naruto. Talent-wise, she couldn't touch him. She wouldn't catch up to him in a month, and maybe not even in a lifetime, so, she didn't try to learn adamantine sealing chains or other ninjutsu. Instead, she focused on Kagura's mind's eye. It was another secret ninjutsu of the Uzumaki clan. By closing your eyes and opening your inner eye, you could sense all chakra within dozens of kilometers. With enough practice, you could even sense emotions through chakra, and even tell if someone was lying. Of course, Sakura wasn't trying to become a human lie detector. The technique could also hide your chakra in dangerous situations so nobody could find you. If she couldn't help Naruto, she wouldn't hold him back. Then hide, Naruto nodded. I'll be back. Sakura hid, closed her eyes, and began the technique. The ruins of Uzushio village. 2 people in black robes with red clouds walked along the village's river. So this is what's left of the once great land of Whirlpools, Kisame said, looking around in amazement. Can you imagine how impressive it must have been when it was still standing? Itachi Uchiha said nothing. Not that I mean anything by it, Kisame said, tilting his head. But I'm a little confused. Are we sure we'll find the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki here? Itachi Uchiha looked up at the moon. Jinchuriki have a strong sense. If he senses us, he'll come to us. Kisame nodded thoughtfully. He won't run. Itachi Uchiha didn't answer. Instead, he glanced to the left. A half-collapsed pillar stood there, with a blond boy wearing a white feather cloak. The moon was right behind him. It looked like an ukiyo-e painting. You were right, Itachi, Kisame said, narrowing his eyes and raising his hand slightly. The Nine-Tails Jinchuriki really came knocking. Naruto looked down at them. So you're after me, huh? He let his chakra surge out. The two people's expressions barely changed, they didn't flinch or show any real sign of being affected. This kid's got some nerve. Kisame grinned, excited like he'd just spotted prey. I thought some of the stories were fake. Scaring away 3 Iwagakure Umbu with just a look. Turns out, it's all true. Itachi Uchiha stayed silent, staring at Naruto. No wonder you had the guts to come here, Naruto said, jumping down from the pillar. You must be pretty tough to stand in front of me like that. Now that he was closer, he could see them better. They both wore the same black and red cloud robes, they both had headbands with different patterns. The guy with the shark face had the hidden mist village symbol on his, the shorter one with the Sharingan had a Konoha headband. The headbands were different, but they all had the same scratch across the village symbol. That was the mark of a rogue ninja, so. These two were part of the same rogue ninja organization. Are you Itachi Uchiha? Naruto asked the shorter man. Itachi Uchiha said softly, you know me? Sasuke's always wanted to kill you, Naruto said, resting his hand on his sword hilt. Hearing about his younger brother, Itachi Uchiha didn't show any emotion. His voice stayed cold. He's not strong enough to do that. Strong enough? Naruto repeated. Itachi Uchiha raised his hand. Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, let's see how tough you really are. Naruto looked at him and smiled gently. You talk about strength. You're still wearing the headband from when you defected from the ninja village. Doesn't exactly sound like you're so tough. Itachi Uchiha said quietly, really? That as soon as he said that, the Sharingan started spinning. Naruto's vision suddenly blurred, and the sky became like a red wave. His body felt heavy, several huge iron stakes stabbed into him, pinning him in place. Is this an illusion? It invaded him without a sound. Nine tails, he called out in his head. Tailed beast chakra instantly flooded his body, disrupting the original chakra balance. It was one of the most effective ways to break an illusion. The stakes disappeared, and the heaviness faded. When Naruto opened his eyes again, a huge fireball was rushing towards him. The heat was so intense that the air shimmered. Fire style, great fireball technique. Itachi Uchiha had seized that moment of distraction. Naruto dodged easily. He unsheathed his red sword. The red light flashed, slicing towards Itachi Uchiha. The sickly-looking man was surprisingly good at hand-to-hand combat. He pulled out a kunai, fighting Naruto for several rounds without losing ground. Kisame didn't step in, for now, it was Itachi Uchiha's fight, and he didn't need help, still. Even though he'd expected it and knew this blonde kid was good, watching him go toe-to-toe with Itachi was still amazing. Back in Konoha, the Sharingan kid his age didn't even get Itachi to break a sweat. What a difference. Naruto frowned. Fighting Itachi Uchiha wasn't that hard. The man didn't seem that interested in actually fighting him. He was testing him, and he was being tested in return. But those endless illusions were giving him a headache. They could mess with his senses, and they were silent when they hit, reaching a level of is it real or not. They weren't fatal, but they kept him from landing any real hits. Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, you're certainly powerful, Itachi Uchiha said suddenly. The 3 Tomo Sharingan alone aren't enough to beat you. I don't know if Sasuke mentioned the evolution of the Sharingan beyond the 3 Tomo. Naruto was caught off guard. The evolution of the Sharingan. He met Itachi Uchiha's gaze. In the man's eye sockets, the 3 Tomo spun, changed shape, and a strange sickle-like pattern unfurled. Tsukuyami, Chakra surged, dragging the blonde boy into the spiritual world. Naruto was in a trance, the world's colors vanished, becoming black and white, like a negative. His body was suddenly tied up tight, bound to a rack. In front of him, Itachi Uchiha was doing the multiple shadow clone technique, appearing everywhere, like a whole crowd of him. When he spoke, his voice echoed. This is the evolution of the Sharingan, the Mangekyo Sharingan. Are you strong enough to endure the pain of these 72 hours? A clone stepped forward, raising a knife and stabbing at Naruto. Chapter 68 Samehada, My Samehada. Second update, please give me a monthly pass. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. The sword in Uchiha Itachi's hand was a standard-issue Tai sword, razor-sharp. His face was blank, focused, but when the blade hit Naruto's chest, it just clanged like it hit solid gold. He couldn't even make a scratch. Itachi looked up, shocked. Naruto, still tied to the rack, grinned. You can pull me into this world. I'm curious about your technique. But that little love tap. Weak. Itachi raised his sword and stabbed again, same result. Didn't even tickle. What was going on? He'd used Tsukuyomi countless times, but never seen this before. The spell had clearly worked, but it couldn't hurt him. It's a soul thing, Naruto murmured. Mine's just way stronger than yours. Your already pathetic soul's been chopped up into a million pieces. You can't touch me. What gets dragged into this space is the spirit, a close cousin to the soul, and the gap between them isn't that huge anymore. Here, Naruto's soul strength was a huge advantage. Multiple Itachis materialized. He'd rather believe Naruto had some innate resistance to the Mangekyo Sharingan. They all stabbed at once, but quantity can't beat quality. Still nothing. Tsukuyomi was completely useless. Itachi didn't hesitate. He instantly cancelled the technique and snapped back to reality. He was breathing hard. Naruto's expression hadn't changed a bit. Kisame was surprised, his eyes darting between the two. He knew Itachi's high technique put a huge strain on his body, but it could cripple an enemy in seconds, leaving them helpless. Itachi didn't use it often, but every time, the results were devastating. Kurenai Yuhi, Asuma Sarutobi, Sasuke Uchiha, they were proof of that. But what was happening now? Itachi's strained face screamed that he'd used Tsukuyomi, but the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki was perfectly fine, still kicking. It was like he'd used Tsukuyomi on Itachi himself. What gives? He blurted out. Itachi frowned. He's strange. This was probably the toughest opponent he'd ever faced. Ordinary illusions worked, but only for a split second, before the tailed beast's chakra broke them, and the advanced illusion, Tsukuyomi, it could pull him into the spiritual world, but even in the spiritual world, which he completely controlled, he couldn't hurt him. With his current abilities, he had no chance of winning, but if he used those spells, his own body. Need me to step in? Kisame grinned. Itachi nodded. His gaze hardened as he watched the golden figure charging toward him. The Mangekyo Sharingan spun, another eye technique activated. Amaterasu. Wherever his eyes focused, where Naruto stood, black flames erupted and raged. Naruto jumped back, startled. What kind of fire style was that? He stomped his foot, splashing water on the black flames, but it hissed into steam. The flames didn't go out. The flames burned through the armor and seared his flesh, charring it black. Jinchuriki brat. Kisame roared, charging forward with a savage grin. Those flames won't stop until you're dead. He ripped the bandaged sword from his back, swung it, and brought it down hard. Speaking of which, that Momochi Zabuza you beat was one of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist, just like me. Now, let's see if you're as good as they say. Naruto gritted his teeth and raised his sword to block. Kisame grinned wider, even more menacing. While Naruto was distracted by the agony of Amaterasu, he pressed down, exploding chakra, the bandages ripping away to reveal the sword's true form. It wasn't really a sword. Surprise Soldier was more like it, dark blue, covered in barbs, pulsing with life. Kid, you're too green, Kisame sneered, yanking the sword back. You fell for it. Great sword Samehada. It slices and dices, not just chops. The barbs hooked Naruto, tearing his clothes and ripping a chunk of flesh. He swung the blade again, but something felt wrong. A gut feeling, the kid in front of him was way too calm, he was at a huge disadvantage, burning from Amaterasu, seriously wounded. Naruto still held his sword high, his voice deceptively calm. You draw a little blood, and you think you're hot stuff. Chakra surged, exploding outward, the words rolled off his tongue. Howling and wailing, singing songs of compassion, turning the wheel of rage, nine-tailed Ashura. As promised, Naruto didn't try to force the nine tails, even though they'd agreed beforehand. Kyuubi usually just said let me think about it, but this time, it didn't hesitate. It quietly lent its power, merged with the power of Ashura, and poured it into Naruto. Long red sword, short gold sword, six-armed golden form. Kisame's sword swung, and Naruto blocked with one arm, using the Kyuubi sword to attack. The clash reverberated. Kisame's face twisted, staring at Naruto in disbelief. What was this? For extra arms. Tapping into the tailed beast's power. He'd seen Jinchuriki fight, but never like this, and the power, it was incredible. He'd been barely holding his own before, now he was on the defensive. Naruto used two of his remaining arms to unroll a scroll, used the sealing technique to seal away the black flames, then used the rebirth healing jutsu, coupled with his own tough physique and the nine-tails chakra. The burns that had nearly exposed bone healed rapidly. The other two arms locked onto Itachi Uchiha. Naruto's eyes burned into him. This was way more dangerous than Shark Face. He clapped his hands together. King Kong restraint. Golden chains erupted, hurtling toward Itachi. He seemed to react too slowly. He was bound head to toe, his arms pinned. Naruto seized the chance, reaching out one hand and chanting. O King! The mask of flesh and blood, the one who flutters the wings of all things and bears the name of man. Carve two lotuses on the wall of blue fire, and await the abyss of fire in the distant sky. Itachi's Sharingan spun wildly. He wanted to copy the technique, but it wasn't ninjutsu. There were no hand seals, he couldn't even see the flow of chakra. Kisame felt a chill. There was nothing quiet and elegant about what was happening. This was a seriously powerful technique. He swung his sword again, clashing with the nine tails. Instead of bouncing off, he twisted his wrist and stabbed backward, locking the red blade in place. Another ability of Samehada activated, chakra absorption. He would drain Naruto's chakra, stop this technique, but nothing happened. Kisame stared in horror. The blonde kid's chakra was so dense, so massive, that when Samehada tried to bite in, it was like a grain of sand in the ocean. The ripples were smaller than the waves. The complete incantation finished, a blinding light erupted from Naruto's palm, fireworks exploded. Hado number 73, Twin Lotus Blue Fire, crashed down. Blue fire, thick as a man's torso, shot out. The water was vaporized instantly, the steam engulfing everything. At the last second, Itachi's body dissolved into a swarm of crows. Naruto jumped back. A doppelganger? Not an ordinary clone. Every crow radiated Itachi's aura. Some kind of shadow clone variant. When did he use the technique? Before the King Kong restraint? Thoughts raced as he fought. The diamond chain whipped out, accurately striking each crow. One by one, they vanished into smoke, but more came, reforming into Itachi's body again. He wasn't in good shape. Half his face was burned and red. Kisame stared in horror, not at Naruto's technique, but because the sword in his hand was changing. Each of the 7 ninja swords of the mist was special, with unique abilities. But Samehada was the most unique. It wasn't just a sword with special abilities. Samehada was practically a living creature. It chose its own master, based on chakra. The stronger the chakra, the more it liked it. After all these years with Samehada, he knew its nature. And there was no doubt, it now loved the nine-tailed Jinchuriki's chakra. It was ignoring his commands to drain Naruto's chakra and was actually spitting back the chakra it had already absorbed. It even desperately wanted to feed the chakra stored in the sword back into Naruto's body. Naruto's body was rejecting it, and its attempts to inject chakra had failed. Kisame was terrified, yanking the sword back. What was wrong with this thing? Samehada had been with him for years, killed so many, absorbed so much chakra, and never thought about betraying him, but after one fight with Naruto, this was the result. If they fought a few more times, would Samehada run off with him? Chapter 69, Spoils of War, 3rd update. Please give me a monthly ticket. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Uchiha Itachi watched Naruto's wounds closing up almost as fast as they appeared. He could feel Naruto's powerful chakra, the kind that makes you stronger as you fight. There's no such thing as an unbeatable technique, or an unbeatable person, but he had to admit, this current Nine-Tails Jinchuriki was a real handful. Finding a weakness was proving nearly impossible. Sure, he was confident that if he used the ultimate technique of the Mangekyo Sharingan, and Kisame backed him up, they could capture this Jinchuriki, but was that kind of sacrifice really worth it? The answer came almost immediately, a resounding no. Uchiha Itachi knew his own body all too well. Every time he unleashed the Mangekyo Sharingan, it ravaged him, pushing his already terminal illness closer to the edge. Sasuke was still just a kid, not ready to stand on his own 2 feet. He needed to hold on to this body, at least until Sasuke was old enough to weather any storm. Kisame, let's go. He made up his mind and called out. Kisame's reaction was a bit surprising. He didn't hesitate, didn't even argue. The battle-hungry warrior simply fell back in line, immediately agreeing, let's bounce. Their retreat was obvious. Naruto surged forward, stepping on the air, and gave chase. Think you can just leave without paying the tab? Unlike the 2 Akatsuki members who had to stick to the ground and dodge obstacles, Naruto was flying in a straight line. He closed the distance almost instantly. Kisame whirled around, clapping his hands in a seal. Water style, giant shark bullet technique. He pulled the remaining water from the river, which was nearly dried up from the damage they had caused. The chakra then condensed into a massive shark, launching itself into the air, straight for Naruto. Naruto swung his sword. The moment the blade connected with the water, a tremendous suction force erupted from the water-shaped shark, trying to drain every drop of Naruto's chakra. But, unlike Samehada's sword, this technique, lacking a life of its own and not controlled by a specific will, couldn't touch the chakra flowing within Naruto. Naruto dismissed it with a glance. Golden chains shot from his palm, like shooting stars in a storm, creating ripples in the air, and quickly targeted the 2 Akatsuki members. Uchiha Itachi easily dodged with his Sharingan. Kisame wasn't so lucky. He dodged 4 or 5 chains, but the 6th wave caught him off guard, piercing clean through his body and pinning him to the ground. But Naruto frowned. Something felt off about the hit. Not the real thing, right? A water clone. Just as he thought, the next moment, the Kisame pierced by the golden chain dissolved into a splash on the ground, and from the water-shaped shark, half of Kisame's body burst out. He had completely concealed his presence in the water, waiting for this moment, and quickly formed seals with his hands. Water style, water prison technique. The shark shrunk, splitting in half and becoming a sphere of water, trapping Naruto inside. Itachi, get out of here. I'll hold him off. Kisame hissed. Uchiha Itachi didn't look back, vanishing from sight in the blink of an eye. The water prison jutsu is a nasty problem for most ninjas. A ninja trapped in the water is completely immobilized, unable to speak or perform hand seals. Without a way to escape, they're stuck, drowning in their own prison. But for Naruto, the only obstacle this technique presented was the initial moment of its creation. No time for incantations. Chapter 11 of Breaking Waves, Thunder and Lightning Adornment. Golden lightning crackled around Naruto's swords, then surged outward, engulfing the water sphere, spreading to the water-shaped shark and then to Kisame. The electricity paralyzed him, disrupting his movements, and interfering with his chakra flow. The jutsu fell apart, the water sphere shattered, the shark vanished, and Kisame plummeted from the sky. Naruto swung his sword, aiming for his neck. Kisame gritted his teeth, frantically trying to right himself in mid-air, dodging the fatal blow. It only saved him from instant death. The strike sliced off his left arm. Naruto pressed his attack, ready to deliver the finishing blow. Boom, black flames erupted, searing Naruto's body. It was Uchiha Itachi. Naruto looked up. The Akatsuki member was already hundreds of yards away. How far could that Sharingan technique reach? As long as he could see, he could unleash those black flames. He hadn't abandoned his teammate, he had simply chosen a more tactical retreat. The inextinguishable flames forced Naruto to stop. Kisame seized the opportunity, diving into the ground. The soil around him instantly liquefied, and he used this flowing sand to swim away to safety. Naruto wanted to give chase, but the black flames were always there, perfectly timed, blocking his path. Naruto stopped his pursuit, released his power, sheathed his sword. He picked up the severed arm, sealed it back into his scroll, and turned back. The coast of the land of Whirlpools. Itachi and Kisame stopped running. He didn't follow. Kisame frowned, rummaging through his ninja pouch with his right hand, finding some ointment, disinfecting and bandaging his wound. That kid's a real powerhouse. Uchiha Itachi nodded, he agreed completely. Take the information back, he said softly. See if they can make any sense of it. Samehada thrashed, clearly upset at being separated from Naruto's powerful chakra. Kisame had to stop bandaging and pour some of his own chakra into the sword to calm it down. Your genjutsu, the one that always works, didn't even faze him. Looks like only the boss can take him down. Uchiha Itachi didn't reply. He lowered his head, remembering the pair of purple, swirling eyes. Let's go. After a moment, he stood and helped bandage Kisame's wound. It'll be bad news if he catches up to us later. The Jinchuriki's senses are even better than the Byakugan. They left by boat without hesitation. Naruto also returned to the temporary camp. The campfire was out, hastily buried with loose soil. Karen was gone, he couldn't find many traces of her. Karen, I'm back. He called out softly. Karen hesitated before poking her head out of the building next to them. There was a lot of commotion over there. Did you get rid of them? They ran off. Naruto smiled, tilting his head at her. You came out so easily. What if it was someone pretending to be me? Karen put her hands on her hips, saying confidently, I can sense chakra. Naruto, your chakra is unique. No one else has it. It feels so warm. You can't fake that. She walked over to Naruto, starting to squat down to relight the fire. Then she turned, resting her hand on his shoulder. Are you hurt? Come on, bite me, she said urgently, pushing up her sleeve. Naruto shook his head, pointing to his arm. Nah, it's almost healed. Karen looked closer. The wound was closing at a rate you could see with the naked eye. You have that too, Karen nodded, pushing her sleeve back down. I almost forgot, you're an Uzumaki. The fire was burning again. Naruto and Karen exchanged sealing techniques. Kagura Shingon was an interesting technique, one Naruto was very curious about, especially the ability to sense emotions. Thought it was similar to the ability he got after releasing the sword Ashura. He remembered what Kyuubi had said, Ashura is the ancestor of the Uzumaki clan. The abilities granted by this technique seemed to prove that. He hoped excavating the stone tablet text tomorrow would give them some helpful clues. The next morning, Naruto and Karen were busy studying the inscription again. The shrine was the place they most wanted to find, but it seemed to be non-existent in the whole village, or maybe the shrine once existed, but it had since disappeared. The entire building moved. The empty spaces in the ruins were proof enough. You could see traces of buildings that once stood there. At lunch, Karen said regretfully, was it taken by the ninja villages that destroyed the land of Whirlpools? Let's gather everything useful here first. Naruto held up the scroll. The history of the Uzumaki clan is interesting too. After we find the information here, we'll figure out which ninja villages destroyed the land of Whirlpools. Then we'll hit up their villages and trade for more information. Karen nodded. Before he could get more than a few bites into his meal, a cloud of white smoke appeared next to Naruto. A red toad with goggles around its neck popped into existence. Naruto reacted instantly, chakra flaring. I'm not the enemy. The toad squeaked, terrified. I'm a messenger from Mount Myaboku. Master Jiraiya has a message for you. Naruto calmed down. What's the message? The red toad opened its mouth and spat out a scroll. Master Jiraiya wrote it all down here. Naruto picked it up and unrolled it. The scroll was covered with writing, dense and detailed, but the message itself wasn't exactly news. It was about Uchiha Itachi and Shark Face, who had attacked him the previous night. Jiraiya wrote that they both belonged to an organization called Akatsuki. The organization only had 9 members, but they were all elites. The biggest advantage of this organization was their small size and high quality. The 9 members were all S-ranked criminals wanted by major ninja villages for serious crimes. The organization's purpose was currently unknown. They had been collecting techniques in the past, and just a few days earlier, Uchiha Itachi and Hoshigaki Kisame had broken into Konoha, injuring Sarutobi Asuma and Yuhi Kurenai. They hadn't woken up until today. They also carried a message. The real reason these two had broken into Konoha was to search for the legacy of the fourth Hokage. Chapter 70 I refuse. Fourth update, please give me a monthly ticket. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Naruto asked Kosuke, the toad, to take a message back. He kept it short, just explaining what happened the night before and the outcome of the fight. He hadn't managed to take down Itachi and Kisame, but they'd left something behind, an arm belonging to the shark-faced guy. Back in Konoha, Jiraiya, sitting by Asuma Sarutobi's hospital window, received the message. His face fell. Master Jiraiya, what's wrong? Kakashi, also watching over things at the hospital, was concerned. Sasuke was taking Asuma's injuries even harder, and hadn't woken up yet. Seeing Jiraiya's expression shift, Kakashi felt a pang of worry. Jiraiya's voice was heavy. Naruto ran into them. His emotions were a mess. He'd just promised Naruto he wouldn't be late. But just days later, his intel had arrived too late. Passing on information after the fact was almost useless. Information that arrived just in time was what mattered. Kakashi was stunned. He realized he'd misjudged the situation based on Jiraiya's reaction. If Naruto could send a message, he must be okay. Naruto got away? He asked cautiously. Jiraiya shook his head. Naruto did much better than we expected. He didn't just escape. He went toe-to-toe with both of them and even chopped off one of Kisame's arms. Kakashi's jaw dropped. He'd faced Itachi himself. The guy put on the same kind of pressure as Orochimaru, maybe even more, and now, facing both Itachi and Kisame, Naruto had managed this. Naruto's gotten a lot stronger, Kakashi said, exhaling slowly. He'd gone from being weaker than Kakashi to being stronger, and if he did the math, it had only taken Naruto a little over 4 months. He hadn't even stopped at as strong as Kakashi. His teacher's kid had surpassed him, and Kakashi was still stuck with the same skill set he'd had at 12. I'm leaving, Jiraiya said softly, standing. I thought I could use this as an excuse to get closer to Naruto. Looks like it won't work. He did a great job. I need to worry about other things now. Kakashi stood up with him. Are you going to find Tsunade? Jiraiya nodded. Konoha needs a Kage. Kakashi, let's say. If Tsunade doesn't want to come back, the Hokage position needs someone reliable to take over. He didn't spell it out, but everyone in the room understood what he meant. Kakashi was qualified to be Hokage. Leaving aside Jiraiya and Tsunade, the next options were Shikaka, Nara and Kakashi. Kakashi was the better fit. He was younger and stronger, and as for the guy who'd been temporarily stripped of his senior advisor status and kept insisting he was the only one fit to be Hokage, he was qualified on paper, but the least qualified in reality. Jiraiya, the ninja leadership, and the senior advisors didn't want a situation where, after someone became Hokage, the golden-haired Jinchuriki would return to Konoha, and the Orochimaru Konoha destruction plan would happen all over again. Kakashi responded, yeah, I know. He turned and looked out the window. It was summer, and the trees were full, so full that the green of the leaves almost hurt his eyes. Meanwhile, on Whirlpool Country Island, Naruto and Karen were enjoying their time digging for information in the ruins of Whirlpool Village, but progress was slow. They hunted for inscriptions in the morning and deciphered them in the afternoon. Working together, they could only translate 4 or 5 inscriptions a day, and at that moment, Jiraiya set off to find Tsunade. Finding Tsunadeheim, one of the legendary Sannin, wasn't easy, but finding the legendary Big Spender was. In less than 2 weeks, Jiraiya found her trail in a town known for its casinos. In a tavern, the two sat across from each other. Young woman with short hair, holding a pig, sat next to Tsunade. Is that Duan's niece? Jiraiya looked at the young woman and greeted her. She's grown up. I remember her name. Shizune, right? Jiraiya, cut the small talk. You seem to have gone to some trouble to track me down. Tsunade waved her hand impatiently. What's up? Jiraiya said softly, I'll get straight to the point. The village wants you to become the 5th Hokage. Old man Sarutobi can't hack it anymore. Is he trying to retire? Tsunade scoffed. He's been Hokage for almost 30 years. Is he trying to cling to power? Jiraiya's face was grave. Don't you know about the third Hokage? Orochimaru killed him a while ago. Tsunade was stunned, the news knocked her off balance. Really? She looked down and took a sip of her drink. Jiraiya held out his hand. So, will you do it? Tsunade didn't answer immediately. Shizen tilted her head and looked at her silently. Memories swirled in Tsunade's mind, with several faces flashing and replaying. One was a face that looked a lot like hers, but younger. It was her younger brother, Nawaki, who died young. He'd gone to the battlefield right after graduating from the academy and died in an explosion. Another was an adult male with long silver hair. It was her former lover, Dan Kato, who died in her arms during the war. There were other faces, too, people she'd known back when she was a ninja, all now dead. I refuse. Tsunade shook her head, her voice flat. Jiraiya's heart skipped a beat. He scratched his head and tried to sound cheerful. This reminds me of the old days, when you turned me down the same way. But the Hokage gig is different from your crush. Can I ask why? Tsunade turned to look out the window. Whether it's Sarutobi-sensei or my grandfather's. Or even the brilliant fourth Hokage. They gave so much to the village, but did they really change anything? So that's it. Hokage is pointless. Only a fool would want to be one. Jiraiya was speechless. It was the same face that had inspired his admiration 30 years ago. But now, it felt strange. Things are different now, he said slowly. Danzo's no longer a senior advisor. Tsunade was surprised. Did Orochimaru take him out, too? No. Jiraiya shook his head. It's because of a very interesting kid. He's got talent to rival Minato's, maybe even surpass it. He has the potential to change the village. Danzo was stripped of his position because of that same kid. Look, Konoha's got some promising seedlings growing. Talent comparable to Minato. And he influenced Danzo. Tsunade looked at Jiraiya, but he looked away, avoiding her gaze, lying. About what? You and I both know that being a senior advisor means nothing to Danzo, Tsunade pressed, guessing. Does he still have his Umbu training division? Jiraiya didn't answer, his silence speaking volumes. Tsunade raised her eyebrows. Okay, he wasn't lying about that. Where is this kid you mentioned who's supposed to rival the fourth Hokage? Tsunade put her glass down. If he's really that special, bring him to me. Just like Minato did back then. Jiraiya looked away. Tsunade narrowed her eyes. He lied about this. So, there's no such kid, right? Tsunade said softly. Jiraiya shook his head, his tone firm. No, Naruto's real, all right. He's just not in the village right now. He's traveling. Tsunade laughed derisively. The word traveling sounded particularly mocking coming from her. You bailed because you couldn't stand the village, right? She elaborated. Jiraiya didn't respond. Silence was agreement. Even the seedlings you mentioned can't stand being in the village. Tsunade laughed, a mocking sound. Why should I go back? Jiraiya said firmly. Naruto left to find the legendary Pure Land. Tsunade stopped laughing. He has some unique abilities, Jiraiya went on. You've heard of the Uzumaki clan's forbidden technique, right? Tsunade nodded. Her grandmother was from the Uzumaki clan and had talked about it when Tsunade was a kid. Jiraiya said, Naruto didn't make a deal with the Shinigami, but he can see him. He wants to find the Pure Land and see his parents. He's Minato and Kushina's child. Right now, it's just an accident. I'm going to bring him back to Konoha. The words Pure Land made the two faces in Tsunade's mind even clearer. What a fool, chasing something that doesn't exist. Tsunade grinned, but her voice was softer now. Jiraiya seized the opportunity and held out his hand. So, come back to Konoha. While he's still young, we still have the chance to protect his ideals. Tsunade shook her head, more decisively than before. I refuse. When you bring that little devil back to Konoha from his search for the Pure Land, then I'll go back. She was firm, Jiraiya sighed, sinking into his chair, his back suddenly slumping. Really? That's your final answer? Tsunade nodded. She was resolute. For the next few days, Jiraiya stayed by her side, trying to persuade her, but it didn't work.